Hello. So some of you may have noticed that I have a tendency to throw pronouns around, use she instead of he for the Holy Spirit, and a lot of times I'll say God's self instead of his, and there's a reason for that. The thing is, God is so much bigger than gender. God is beyond gender. You can say God created gender. God encompasses both male and female and so much more. But we're limited by our language, and we've got he, she, and it as options for pronouns. And let's face it, we're lazy, and we're not going to always say God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. We're going to say his, hers, he, she, instead. Traditionally, within the Christian church, we view God as a Holy Trinity, both 1 and 3, which I talk about in another video. You can click in the link below if you would like to see it. But we have God the Father, who is been traditionally for the last 2,000 years referred to as God the Father, even though if you look in the Old Testament and even in places in the New Testament, God is also referred to as Mother. Due to culture that has patriarchal systems embedded into it and probably a whole other slew of reasons, the male father image has kind of won out, and we just refer to God the Father as the Father, and that is perfectly fine, as long as we acknowledge that God's not limited by that. And then within the Trinity, we have Jesus, who was God who chose to completely limit God's self and become flesh. In a male form, yes, he had the male parts, so he was a guy, and we call him he. Duh. The Holy Spirit, on the other hand, if you look throughout the entire Old Testament, was constantly referred to as a she. Woman, her, all of the words are in the feminine. God's Spirit is she. And it wasn't until the New Testament where, whatever, the writers were uncomfortable or for whatever reason, they decided to neuter her and just say it. And then about 300 AD, you have the church fathers giving her a complete sex change and referring to the Holy Spirit as a he instead, and that's what has stuck with the rest of Christian tradition. So there you go. I mean, we have God the Father, which could also be referred to as God Mother, but that makes people uncomfortable, and I understand that. That's kind of a cultural thing. And then you have Jesus, who was obviously a he, and then you have the Holy Spirit, who was a she, who became a he after it was, yeah. And it really doesn't matter that much because God, again, is beyond gender. But I will always choose to refer to the Holy Spirit as she because, one, that makes God more accessible and more whole in my image of God. I mean, we all have an image of like what this God looks like and who this God is. And by cutting the feminine out completely, we are doing a huge disservice to who God is. And we're not allowing ourselves to be stretched and okay with the larger picture. To have God as only a he can definitely perpetuate a lot of unjust things, shall we say? And then there's the fact that for a lot of people, the term father is not a warm, comforting, gentle term. There's a lot of people out there who have had complete assholes for fathers. There are a lot of women out there who have been abused, and so the male gendered terms for God are going to be terms that's going to foster distrust and just a lack of safety and harm. And so to allow the feminine part of God to be a part of the story, to be a part of the picture, might allow those people to be able to engage with God on a more healthy level and to be able to approach God without all the negative stigmas that go along subconsciously with terms like father or he. So the last reason that I choose to use she for the Holy Spirit and try to use God's self instead of himself is that it keeps me honest. It keeps God out of the gender box. It keeps me from being arrogant enough to think that I know everything about who God is. Thanks for watching. You can find me on tangledfaith.com where I have a bunch of other videos as well as some other content. I'm here on YouTube at Tangled Faith. I also have my artwork up in a gallery called tangledlifestudios.com. So come visit me wherever. Bye.